Hey everybody, welcome to English 2530 Week 2. We're going to keep moving forward with responsibilities and things that you're going to be working on for this assignment as we're getting more towards the longer writing assignments and also looking at a little bit more of Old English poetry and seeing some of the major themes coming out there. And so I'm going to point to a couple of things that I want you to be keeping an eye on as we go throughout the materials for this section. Remember that the key terms that we're thinking about in this course are honor, loyalty, chivalry, and virtue in some way, shape, or form. And what you're going to see in a lot of cases with this is how the different texts take on and think about these different terms. And so you're going to see some continuation of what we discussed in Bede last week, and also just some new places where we're going. We're looking at two different elegies, which are poems of lament, and we're also looking at a devotional heroic poem called The Dream of the Rood. I think you're really going to like them. Even if you're not particularly religious, there's some beautiful imagery here that I think you will appreciate. So we're going to dive in. I'm going to walk through the materials for this assignment, note a few things that you should be on the lookout for, and then I'll leave it to you, and then you can have everything turned in next week, and we'll go over due dates and everything like that. So, all right, here we go. So if you come into our class here, you can see that the learning module week 2 Old English poetry is sitting here, and there you will find all of the information that you need for this week, and that's going to be true every week of the semester. If you can get here and walk through things in order, you're going to be just fine. So in order to do that well, you can look through the checklist here, and it'll walk through each one of the steps, and I'll show you each of those steps in turn. So after you watch this video, which you got through here, you got the link in the announcement as well, you go on down to read the reading notes. And the reason why I put the reading notes ahead of the text themselves is so that you can have a bit of a guide of things to look for. They are not exhaustive in any way, shape, or form. They are just my thoughts on the particular stronger movements of the poems. You might find something completely different. In fact, I encourage you to, because even as I was rereading for them for this class, I noticed like there's some stuff in here that I added into these notes that I hadn't noticed before. That's the part of great literature, is it really can keep engaging your heart and your mind in these ways. And so as you move from these, and this is true throughout the semester, the reading notes are a guide. They are a jumping off point. Go whatever direction that you want to. So long as you're talking about the text itself, you've got plenty of room, right? Sometimes you may look at a text and say, I don't see any virtue here, or there's an attempt by the author to make it this virtuous, but it's really not, all the way down to here are some specific ways that I see honor played out or not played out, other things like that. So all that to say, don't be married to these reading notes. Use them as a guide, and then they will take you into the text. But my goal is that you begin to really understand and unpack the text for yourself. So as we go through and you look at these reading notes, you click on here and upload them. I'm going to walk real quickly through the first two poems, which is The Wanderer and The Wife's Lament. Now, I'm not going to read these reading notes to you. They're here for you to read. But there are a couple of key things to look at. One is this idea of mutability, which is the tendency for everything to change. And in these two poems, they are lamenting what they used to have. And so for the Wanderer, he used to be a part of a noble lord's retinue or household, and had food and resources and drink and everything he needed. And now he's separated from them. We don't know what caused their separation, but we know that he's lamenting the fact that he's alone. In the same way, the wife's lament, she married a husband from another family, another tribe, and for some reason he is in exile with that tribe. And so she's there by herself with people that hate her. And she, as a woman, has no autonomy, nothing to do without her husband there. And so she laments what there used to be. So think about that in terms of how the poems are structured, but also what it says about honor and virtue and what's expected of people, and what does it mean to put a woman in this position who has no other social connections or no other way to climb out of the place that she's in outside of her husband, or the wanderer who has a similar relationship to his Lord now that he's by himself out on the water. So another thing to point to, though, is you'll notice that in both cases they always are connecting to some kind of lesson. what is the honorable thing to do? In both cases, they say you have to sit with your sorrow, which is interesting because they're also proclaiming their sorrow in these poems. And so there is this endurance that comes out of it, and even some hopefulness at times that things will get better, but maybe not on this side of death. And so read those through, think about those ideas. And what I've asked you to do for the discussion board post that's going to be this, and this is going to be due on Wednesday, is to unpack these ideas through using the text itself. So we had you look at the text and bring an example in from Cadman in the last assignment. Now I want you to think about the big idea that's going on. Pick any of those terms that are there. I listed several of them. Find a quote that illustrates it. Put the quote at the top of your post, and then explain how you see that term in this. You feel free to use more than one term. You'd only have to use one, and feel free to use both poems if you want. You can even compare and contrast them. We'll be doing that more later in the semester, but for now it's just taking that next step of we let the quote drive the analysis in the first one. Now I'm asking you to think through how can you use this quote to prove your central idea, what you think the poem is focusing on in particular. And that's an ongoing practice that I'm going to emphasize for you in writing in general. Is ultimately I want you to be making the argument, not expecting that I'm going to follow you to the argument that you're making. So that's a process that is not natural. We tend to think that people are going to understand what we're writing, but it's not true. We don't understand. You've got to take us there. So that's what I'm asking you to do. In the next text and for the next assignment, you're going to be looking at The Dream of the Rood, which is, and here are the notes on it down here. This is a dream narrative where the speaker of the poem imagines he sees the cross that Jesus was crucified on, and then it goes through this process of it's very, very beautiful and very ornate, and then he sees it going through the process of what it meant to be crucified, and then back to that ornate state. And in the middle of that, we have this proclamation of Jesus as well. Jesus, in this sense, coming to the cross and actually climbing up on it rather than being nailed to it. And I think the point is, and I meant this in the notes, this is not trying to be a historically accurate depiction. It's more dealing with the motives and thoughts and the indications of what we see in the culture at the time. So this is a warrior culture, and so it makes sense that Christ is going to be presented as a warrior king, conquering and climbing up, but it also corresponds with the Christian theology of victory through death. So Christ gets victory ultimately over sin and darkness through the death on the cross. And then the cross itself goes through a similar journey of going down and then back up to this exalted icon of worship. And that's what the speaker says at the end. He's like, I'm going to worship God, and I'm going to proclaim the message to all of the people. So he becomes a worshiper and an evangelist. So again, all of those are here in the notes. Look at them, think about them. Again, they are strictly designed to be jumping off points for you. So I've quoted the text at length here. You need not only use my quotes, you can use whatever you would like. And then that was going to lead you to this discussion board post prompt, where I'm asking you to do just the next step of literary analysis, which is taking this idea that you have, the quotes that you have, and to start thinking about the why question. Why did the author construct the text in this way? So I'm asking you to take some of the imagery you found and connect it to the why of this text. So first thing you need to explain in a paragraph is, what is the why? Why is the text constructed in this way? It's a devotional text, but it's about the cross itself. So what is the author perhaps hoping for in accomplishing this? And you don't know, I don't know, but we have clues inside the text that we can use to help guide that process. That discussion board post is due on Friday by 8 p.m. And this is the first assignment that first discussion board post. And we're going to be doing this the rest of the semester, where I'm asking you to comment on your classmates' posts. So you also need to provide some sort of comment and you'll notice where I say in here that you can agree, disagree, or agree and disagree. And in every sense, it's never just I agree or I disagree, but why do you agree? Where are some connection points? Where can you bring your own analysis into it and put it in conversation with your classmates? That ultimately serves to help all of us understand and learn these texts better. So That's it for the week. You've got 2 discussion board posts, one due on Wednesday, one due on Friday, with comments due on the one on Friday by Saturday. Then that'll be it for the week, and then the following week we're going to be heading towards Beowulf, and I think that's going to be you probably have some familiarity with it, and we're going to expand that a little bit into it's a bit of a longer read and a longer assignment for both, and that'll be the norm for this semester going forward. As always, feel free to reach out to me. You can reach me at my email, cmoody@aum.edu. Have a great week, and I'll talk with you soon.